I'm 32, and until last month I thought I knew everything about my dad. He was quiet, loved classic rock, took his coffee black, and never missed a single one of my school recitals, even when my mom didn't show. He raised me mostly alone after my mom left when I was 10, and while our life wasn't perfect, it felt stable. He was my hero. When he passed away from a heart attack 3 weeks ago, I was devastated. I'm an only child, and he was the only real family I had left. We had plans too. He was going to come live with me after I bought my house next spring. He was finally retiring. We were going to go to Ireland together, where his grandparents were from. We even had a spreadsheet. After the funeral, things were already hard enough. But then I got a call from his lawyer asking me to attend the will reading. I didn't think anything of it. I figured it would just be me and maybe a couple of his old co-workers or something. What I wasn't expecting was her. A woman around my age was already sitting in the conference room when I arrived. She looked like she'd just come from the same funeral I had. Black dress, red eyes, clutching a tissue. I assumed she must have been one of my dad's friends' kids. But the moment the lawyer opened the meeting, he started with the usual stuff, naming me as the executor, going over the property, the retirement accounts, the life insurance, and then he said my dad had made one last addition 2 months before. He added someone named Emily as a beneficiary. The lawyer turned to the woman next to me, nodded and said, "Emily Bennett as named." My stomach. She turned to me and said, "Hi, I'm your sister." I just stared at her. Sister. I thought maybe I'd misheard, or maybe this was some kind of legal language. Beneficiary doesn't always mean blood, right? But then Emily looked right at me and said, "I didn't know either, until last year. I couldn't move." I could feel my heart pounding in my ears, but I was frozen. The lawyer didn't even flinch. He just kept reading, like this wasn't the biggest shock of my life. Turns out my dad had been giving Emily money for nearly a year, set up a separate account, paid part of her college loans, left her a portion of his savings, and a small property in Maine I didn't even know he owned. And the weirdest part? He'd written a letter to both of us, sealed, to be opened after the reading. I couldn't even process what was happening. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or laugh at the sheer absurdity of it all. How could he have had another daughter and never told me? The lawyer finished the paperwork and handed me the envelope with my name on it. Emily got hers too. Then he stood up, thanked us, and left us alone in the room. The silence was unbearable. I couldn't even look at her. I just kept my eyes on the letter, still sealed in my shaking hands. Emily was the first to speak. She said, "I didn't come here to take anything. I just wanted answers too." Her voice was soft, unsure, and for a second I didn't hear the woman who'd just turned my life upside down. I heard someone who'd been lied to, just like I had. I got up, muttered something about needing air, and left the room. I could feel her eyes on me as I left, but I didn't turn around. I didn't cry until I was in the car. And even then, it wasn't just grief anymore. It was betrayal. I'd lost my dad once, when he died, and now, sitting with this secret, I felt like I was losing him all over again. At home that night, I finally opened the letter, and what he wrote changed everything. The letter wasn't long, just 2 pages, handwritten in his usual half-messy, half-engineer neatness. I almost didn't want to read it, like if I left it sealed, maybe this wasn't real. But of course, curiosity won. It started off gentle. He told me how proud he was of me, how grateful he'd always been for our relationship, how strong I'd been after Mom left. That part almost broke me, and then came the rest. He said he had made a mistake in his 20s, before meeting my mom. A one-night stand. He never got the woman's last name. Said it was stupid and careless, and he always regretted not trying harder to find her. Years later, while I was still in high school, he got a message on Facebook from that woman. She told him she'd had his child, a girl, Emily, and that she didn't want anything from him, just for him to know. He never told me. Said he didn't want to confuse things or hurt me, especially after everything with Mom. And maybe I could have forgiven that part. But then the letter kept going. He met Emily a few times over coffee. She was smart, kind, curious about him. They started building a quiet, slow relationship. He helped her financially when she struggled. She called him David, not Dad, but she wanted to get to know him, and he wanted to know her too. He said he planned to tell me eventually. He was just waiting for the right moment. That phrase lit something in me. He had 13 years to find that moment. 13 years where he looked me in the face, had dinner with me, called me kiddo, sent me birthday cards, and never once mentioned that I had a sister. 13 years where he kept this whole second version of himself completely hidden, and somehow, he thought a 2-page letter would fix that? I was angry, so angry, and underneath that anger was something worse. This hollow, unbearable ache that kept whispering the same question. Was I not enough for him? Because that's what it felt like he needed another daughter, like I wasn't enough. I didn't sleep that night. I just laid there, going over every single memory of my dad, wondering which ones were real and which were just stories he told to cover up who he really was. And the worst part? I didn't know who I was mad at more. Him. or myself, for still missing him anyway. I avoided Emily's messages for 3 days. She only sent 2, both short. The first was just, "I'm sorry if this is hard. It is for me too." The second came the next night. "I don't want anything from you. Just maybe one day we can talk." I didn't reply. I wasn't ready. Every time her name popped up on my phone, I felt like my chest was caving in. I didn't tell anyone either. Not my friends, not my coworkers, not even my boyfriend, Nate. I couldn't. I kept hearing the same line from Dad's letter over and over. I was waiting for the right moment. It made me sick, but on the 4th day, I cracked. I couldn't sit in the silence anymore. I grabbed a bottle of wine, curled up on my couch, and did the one thing I told myself I wouldn't do. I looked her up, Emily Bennett, and when her profile popped up, I felt like I'd swallowed a rock, because there she was, laughing in one photo, arms around a golden retriever in another, a degree in biology listed under her education, and a birthday that made her 4 years younger than me. She looked so normal. She looked happy, and for some stupid reason that made me furious. How dare she be happy when she blew up my entire world? But it wasn't her fault. I knew that. The more I scrolled, the more that anger turned into something else. Jealousy, because in her photos I saw the same eyes as mine, the same exact shape, same eyebrow, same hairline. There was no denying it. She was my father's daughter. I clicked on a post from last summer, her birthday. She'd captioned it. Took a long time to feel like I could celebrate. Here's to 28 and finally learning how to let good things in. The photo was her, my dad. He was standing beside her, smiling, holding a cake with a crooked 28 candle on top. Crooked. That was his signature. He used to do that for my birthdays. Said it made the wish stronger. I burst into tears. I don't even know how long I sat there crying. Something about seeing him standing next to her, like doing the same things he did for me. It broke something in me I didn't know was still intact. All I could think was, how many of our moments did he recycle with her? And then, just before I finally closed the app, I noticed something in the background of the birthday photo. Something that made my blood run cold. The house they were standing in? It wasn't hers. It was his. That photo haunted me for hours. I zoomed in, squinted, tried to tell myself I was imagining it, but no, there was no mistaking it. The chipped blue wall by the fireplace, the old brass floor lamp with the dented shade, and even the hideous brown recliner that he swore was the most comfortable chair in the universe. That was his house, the house I practically grew up in, which meant that birthday party, that photo with the crooked candle. It didn't happen at some neutral place. He'd invited her into our space, the one filled with my childhood memory, the one where we decorated our tiny fake Christmas tree every year and watched old war movies on his scratched-up DVDs. Emily had been in my home, and I never knew. I sat there shaking, scrolling faster now, looking for more, looking for proof I wasn't crazy, and I found it. Another post from months earlier, captioned, "Sunday dinner with the best." There he was again, my dad, holding a casserole dish like a proud dad joke champion, wearing the same grillfather apron he used to wear when he made me barbecue chicken in the summer, and across from him, Emily, smiling like she'd known him forever. That was the moment everything inside me turned cold. He had 2 lives, 2 daughters, 2 sets of memories, but only one of us knew the truth. How many times did he lie to me when he said he was going out with friends? Was that code for dinner with Emily? When he canceled our weekend trips, was it because she was visiting? Was he rotating us? I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch something. But most of all, I wanted answers. So I finally did what I swore I wouldn't. I messaged her. 5 words. That's all I wrote. "How long were you visiting?" She responded 6 minutes later. "Almost every other weekend. For a year." And then came the 6th word. A second message. "I'm sorry." Her reply sat there on my screen, glowing like a wound. Every other weekend. For a year. That's 52 weeks. 26 visits. 26 times my dad cooked dinner with her. Probably watched a movie. Probably told her the same terrible puns he used to tell me. And not once did he mention her to me. I didn't even know how to respond. All I could think was, where the hell was I on those weekends? I opened my calendar, looked back. The canceled lunches, the delayed birthday dinner he promised to reschedule soon, the time he said he was feeling sick and couldn't make the concert I bought him tickets for. Turns out he wasn't sick. He was probably just with her. I wrote back, "He told me you didn't exist." And she said, "He told me the same about you, until last fall." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I asked, "So why did you come to the will reading?" Her answer came fast. "Because I wanted to know who he really was." That hit me hard. Because suddenly I realized I didn't know either. We were both strangers to the same man. Emily offered to meet. Said she didn't expect forgiveness or friendship. She just wanted to talk, to clear the air. She even suggested a public place. Said she'd pay for the coffee. It was all very careful. Like she was expecting me to explode. And maybe she should have been. But weirdly, I wasn't angry at her. I was angry at him. He built this entire structure of lies, brick by brick, made me the foundation, and then built another version of himself on the side, quietly, like a man building a secret room behind a bookshelf. And when the storm came, when he died, he left us to stand in the rubble. I agreed to meet her, and I didn't tell anyone. The day of the meeting, I sat in my car outside the cafe for 10 minutes before going in. I almost drove away, but something in me, the part that couldn't let go of needing to understand, forced me through the door. And there she was, Emily, the other half of the story. She looked up, nervous, clutched a coffee cup with both hands like it was anchoring her to the earth. I sat down across from her. We didn't speak for a long moment. Then, without looking up, she said, "I think he was afraid of both of us." She said it so quietly, I wasn't even sure I heard her right. He was afraid of both of us. I wanted to ask what she meant, but I didn't have to. She kept talking, slowly, cautiously, like she'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times in her head before I ever agreed to meet. She said he never wanted kids. Not really. That when her mom told him about the pregnancy years ago, he freaked, told her he wasn't ready to be a dad, offered money to make it go away. Her mom refused. He ghosted her completely, moved cities, changed his number, never looked back. I stared at her, stunned, because that wasn't my dad. The man I knew wasn't perfect. He was awkward, a little emotionally distant, but he never ran from anything. He stepped up when Mom left. He cooked. He worked 2 jobs for years to support us. He hugged me every morning before school without fail. But maybe that was his penance, his second chance. Emily said her mom raised her alone. No siblings, just the 2 of them scraping by. She didn't even know who her dad was until she turned 18 and begged for answers. That's when her mom finally told her the name. David, my dad. She found him online, sent him a message. He ignored it for 6 months. Then one day he replied, and everything changed. She showed me the first message he sent. "I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness, but if you're willing, I'd like to get to know you before it's too late." I sat there in that cafe, reading the words my father wrote to the daughter he never claimed, and felt like my body had turned to glass. Every time I blinked, it was like another crack spidered through me. He knew he was running out of time. That's why he reached out to her. Not because he was brave, but because he was dying. He'd found out about the heart condition a year and a half ago, the same condition that killed his dad at 54. He was 58. I didn't know. Emily didn't know either. He told neither of us. And suddenly, it all made sense. The long weekends he said he needed to rest. The weird quietness. The way he started looking at me like he was memorizing me. He knew. He knew he was going to die, and he tried to fix everything. Too late. Emily looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I think we were both the unfinished business." After that, we just sat there. 2 women, born of the same man, raised in opposite worlds, both carrying the same bitter truth. We were his last-minute redemption attempt, and maybe that would have been enough, if he'd actually redeemed anything. Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a small box, slid it across the table, said Dad gave it to her 2 months before he died, and told her not to open it until after he was gone, but she hadn't opened it yet. She said she felt like it wasn't just for her anymore. The box was heavy, black velvet worn around the edges. I didn't touch it right away. "I think he meant for us to open it together," she said. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat was tight, and my hands were shaking. I finally flipped the lid. Inside was an old silver locket. It looked antique, engraved with a small, almost faded rose. Next to it, a folded note. Just one sentence written inside, in Dad's handwriting. "Give this to whoever forgives me first." That sentence hit me like a punch in the gut. It was so him, trying to be sentimental and clever at the same time, turning our grief into a riddle, like there'd be a prize for figuring it out. But this wasn't a game. This was real, messy, painful, and unfinished. Emily let out a small laugh, bitter, shaky. That sounds exactly like something he'd say. I didn't laugh. I just closed the box. "I don't want it," I said, and I meant it. It felt cheap, not the locket, but the gesture, the idea that we were supposed to compete for closure, that we had to win forgiveness to get something back from him. I didn't come to that cafe looking for reconciliation, and I still wasn't sure I believed we'd ever be sisters. But in that moment, I made a decision. I slid the box back to her. "You take it." She hesitated. "Are you sure?" I nodded. He owed you more than he owed me. That wasn't some grand act of generosity. It was the truth. He had me. He raised me, fed me, was there for most of the big moments. He may have lied, but he was present. Emily? She got the scraps. The last page of the book. The final paragraph. She held the box in her lap and stared at it like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Then she said something I'll never forget. Maybe this is the one thing he actually got right, putting us in the same room. A week passed after that coffee meeting. We didn't talk much, just exchanged a couple of polite texts. Nothing deep, needed time, space. But the conversation stayed with me. All of it. Her face, that locket, his letter. The ugly realization that grief doesn't end when the funeral's over. It just shifts into a dull, endless ache that follows you around. I started seeing my dad differently. Every memory felt like it had a shadow now. Like when I remembered our road trips, I started wondering if they were less about bonding with me and more about escaping something else. When I looked at old photos of us smiling in the kitchen, I wondered if he ever pictured Emily in that same scene, wishing he could go back and redo it. There were no clean feelings left, just questions. And then, last Friday night, someone knocked on my door. It was almost 9 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. I'd been halfway through folding laundry, still in my pajamas. I peeked through the peephole. It wasn't Emily. It was her mother. I didn't recognize her at first, but when she said her name, my blood went cold. Caroline, Emily's mom. The woman from the letter. The one who, according to my dad, never wanted anything except to tell him the truth. I opened the door slowly. She looked older than I expected. Gray hair twisted into a bun, coat wrapped tightly around her like armor. She didn't smile. "I won't stay long," she said. "I just wanted to look you in the eye." I let her in. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Anger. Confusion. Some cocktail of all three. She sat down at my kitchen table like she belonged there. Looked around the apartment like she was mentally collecting pieces of him from the decor. Her gaze lingered on the picture of me and my dad on the wall. Me at my college graduation. Him beaming with pride. She asked, "Did he ever tell you how we met?" I said no. She nodded, like that made sense. "Bar in Boston. He said he was just passing through." I didn't ask for more. Then she told me everything. How he panicked when she got pregnant. How he disappeared. How she raised Emily without any help. Scraping by, furious and heartbroken, and trying not to hate the man who vanished from their lives. How he showed up again, decades later, with an apology and a tired smile. "I didn't forgive him," she said. "Not at first. Maybe not even now. But I let Emily decide for herself, because I wasn't going to poison her against him the way he poisoned himself with shame." That's when her voice cracked. Just a little. She was so happy to know him, even if it was just for a year. It healed something in her. And then he died, and broke her all over again. I didn't know what to say. I think she saw that. So she stood up, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. But before she left, she turned back. "I know what he did to you. I know he lied. And I know it's tempting to hate him for it." Then she said the thing that's been stuck in my head ever since. "But he gave you his best years. He gave Emily his apology. It's not fair. It's just what it is." After she left, I just sat there. No music, no TV, just the sound of my dryer clicking in the background and my brain trying to process the wreckage. I didn't know what to do with all of it. The secrets, the truth, the locket, the fact that my dad lived 2 different lives, and I never saw it coming. I kept thinking about what Emily's mom said. He gave you his best years. He gave Emily his apology, and she was right. It wasn't fair. None of this was fair. But fairness was never guaranteed. Life doesn't deal the cards evenly. It just plays out, and we survive it, or we don't. The next morning I woke up early and drove 2 hours north, to Maine, to the property my dad left Emily in the will. She hadn't touched it yet, said she wasn't sure what to do with it. I'd looked it up out of curiosity, a tiny cabin near the lake, barely more than a shack, but nestled in this perfect slice of nowhere. Dad used to talk about wanting to escape to the woods someday. I guess that's where he went in his mind, when real life got too loud. Emily was already there when I arrived. She'd brought coffee and 2 folding chairs. No questions, no expectations. We sat on the porch together, looking out over the trees, wrapped in our own silence. She handed me the locket again. "I don't want it either," she said. I held it in my palm, watching the sunlight dance off the silver rose. Then, without saying anything, I opened the back and slipped in a photo I'd brought, an old one of me and Dad, on a pier, fishing. I handed the locket back to her. "You keep it," I said. She didn't argue. For the first time, I realized we weren't enemies. We weren't rivals. We were just 2 women carrying the same ache in different ways. And somehow, both of us had been loved, just not the way we wanted. Before I left, I told her I'd come back, that maybe we could fix the place up together. She smiled, nodded, said she'd like that. So that's where we left it. Not sisters, exactly. Not strangers anymore, either. Just 2 unfinished stories, finally beginning to overlap. Update. It's been 4 months. The cabin has a new roof now, a fresh coat of paint, and a bookshelf where we're slowly stacking pieces of Dad's life. Old photos, postcards, that stupid grillfather apron. We still don't talk about him much, but sometimes, when we're working on something, patching drywall or sanding a window frame, Emily will hum a song I recognize, something from the CDs he always played in the car, and I'll hum along. We'll never get closure the way we wanted, But maybe this is something better. Not forgetting, not forgiving fully, just understanding, and in the strangest, quietest way, building something he never could. A life without lies. Together.